reason I'm reviewing Cold Storage today on the Last Picture Show is because it gives me the excuse to do a best pandemic movie list, which I'll be putting out at some point during this week. But this movie is an interesting one. Interesting because it's Liam Neeson. It's Liam Neeson not doing his typical sort of action hero thing. Well, I mean, sort of he kind of plays a tough guy in this movie, but it is quite a different one because it's an adaptation of a David Cope book. It's about the spread of this super viral, not viral, but a super fungus, very close to the cordyceps that you had in what's it called, The Last of Us. But interesting because of the kind of take that they did for this. Because the thing is that the movie kind of straddles comedy and something that could be kind of taken seriously. I mean, okay. So first, a word on the story, the script, the source material from which this comes from. So David Coop has a really interesting career because if you guys have been following this page and of course my reviews, you'll note that sort of in my best movies of 2025, my top 10, I included Black Book, which is a David Coop script directed by Steven Soderbergh. But then within the very same breath, I did the worst movies of 2025, which included Jurassic World Rebirth, also penned by David Coop. So interesting guy. I mean, yeah. And here you have one of his books being adapted about what's it called? Debris from Skylab, if anyone remembers that one, landing up somewhere in Australia. And because, Skylab was meant for what's it called, to do experiments up there in space, they sent up a fungus and it comes back in this mutated form to become this extremely virulent and it essentially turns people into zombies or just walking piles of pus, bags of pus. All right, so in steps in Liam Neeson and Leslie Manville. I mean, this movie has Leslie Manville and even Vanessa Redgrave, Liam Neeson's mother-in-law at one point. So yeah, okay, in steps Liam Neeson as his as like this U.S. Army bioterror type guy, and they identify it, they quarantine it, and they bury it deep underground in this facility, which over the course of I think like 20 years, ends up being like a storage locker type place. Unbeknownst to the people who are running the storage locker place, deep within its vaults, you have this cold storage where this fungus, thanks to global warming, good not there, has, thrived. The cold storage unit, this locker place has that kid from, well, not a kid now, he's an adult, but that dude from Stranger Things and this other lady. And sort of like, I'm not saying they're entirely hapless, but I mean, one's an ex-convict, the other's a single mother. And they're meant to contend with this super fungus. Okay, this is an interesting one because the thing is that this movie, I haven't read the book or the source material, so I don't know what kind of tone that had. But this movie could have played it two ways, right? One, it could have been a straight up, like, sort of bio-terror thriller, like, a pandemic type, sort of movie similar to something like Contagion, which of course is going to make it to my best list, or Outbreak. Something along the lines of that, where you have a kind of play-by-play, I wouldn't even say docufiction, but something that sort of is very close to, reality in how, what's it called? The US Army or US government or CDC or anything like that, people who are meant to contend with stuff like this, contend with it. That was one way, play it very straight. And you would have had a very interesting movie that way. And the other way is just go straight up comedy and do it like Evolution. Remember that movie which had like David Duchovny and Orlando Jones and yeah, I mean, I really like that movie. I mean, I'm not saying it was like an inheritor to Ghostbuster legacy. But I mean, I enjoyed that movie. I liked Evolution. Unfortunately, what this movie does is it kind of marries the two. So on the one hand, you have like this bio thriller straight from the pages of maybe not David Coop but Michael Crichton, and on the other hand, you have like this. I'm not saying it's a light comedy, but I mean like there are funny moments, and I think trying to do both at the same time waters down the effect of either. Um, I would have liked genuinely to see this movie atone and just follow with that. Instead, I think it's just maybe not confused, but I think that sort of, again, not knowing what the source material was like. But I mean, I remember reading the blurb right before coming on air, if you want to call this being on air. But I remember reading that. I think it read up straight. It read, like a typical sort of bio thriller or something like that. Like if Titan was the king of the tech thriller, then you know where this is coming from, at least in tone. Uh this I don't know if it's a relief to see Liam Neeson doing something other than what he's been doing for like the past 20 years, which is, uh, straight up action hero. Now, of course, he's old, he's in his 70s. Um, but I wonder what this movie would have been like. And I keep on leaning towards that. And I don't know why. While watching the movie, I kept on thinking of, and I've mentioned this book in the past as well, when I was reviewing House of Dynamite, and that is Annie Jacobson's, what's it called, Nuclear War Scenario. Because that book is literally a second by second, minute by minute breakdown of nuclear Armageddon. I think it would have been really cool, right? If they had maybe taken the source material, which is David Coop's book, right? And sort of gotten rid of all of these extraneous bits of like, sort of a bioterror operative, teaming up with like, these regular Joes and trying to stop this outbreak that sort of threatens humanity, and just maybe done something like that. Maybe that's like a script that I may one day write, fat chance. But you know what I'm saying, right? That's a movie that I would have rather seen than this. Although this is not to say that I didn't enjoy my time watching this. Like it was shorthand for me is something that's like easy for me to like sort of, I wouldn't say dismiss, but at least categorize films by, is saying if they're like, a good Saturday night movie or a good Sunday night movie. And this was like an average Sunday night movie. It was something that I was like, okay, watching. It didn't demand too much of me, but then it did sort of get the, sort of cog spinning and sort of wanting a better film. Um, and that's why, if hopefully you guys do stay tuned, later this week, I will put out sort of a best pandemic movie, sort of films that aren't purely science fiction, like maybe are, sort of more hard sci-fi than they are like, sort of regular sci-fi, and just like sort of do one of those. And I'm definitely going to do one of those thanks to this movie. So yeah, that's Cold Storage for you, starring Liam Neeson.